Have you ever had one of those days where your desire to get something done and common sense don't go together well? This is one of those days. This is going to be an extremely long and complex video. No, not at all. I'm going to fix this emblem that was sent to me by a very generous subscriber. And what happened is the little prong has broken off. Okay? It goes here in the center. And I could just glue this to the grill because I do have emblem adhesive. But this thing's kind of heavy. So my plan is to go ahead and repair this, and then I'm going to glue it as well, and that way we've got the double whammy going. So this is going to be an extremely short, like, I don't know, 10 minutes, maybe. I'm not really sure. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this little JB weld. How many of you are not familiar with JB weld? Yeah, I knew it, right? Okay, we're going to JB weld this as neatly as possible. We've got to clean the back of it. Going to put a little bit of solvent on there, clean it off real quick, put a little JB weld, blob that in there. Done. And then I'll show you when I install it on the car because it's like, you know, way cool. Alright, that's pretty much what we're going to do today. So hang in there. Let's go. Super simple. Take an old t-shirt, put a little acetone on it, clean up. The reason I use acetone is because it evaporates very, very quickly. You don't want any residue on the part when you start gluing it together. So I want to make sure that's good and clean. I'm also going to clean the little piece. If I sound a little froggy, that's because the old spring cold is coming into season. Actually, I'm going to leave that nut on there for balance. Then we're going to see which way it goes. Doesn't go that way. Goes that way. All right. So we'll just set that like that so we know to put it on that way. I'm going to mix up some JB Weld. With JB Weld, you just want to go equal amounts of both. So just going to squeeze some out of the tube, assuming I can get some out. And just put a little dab into you. Because we're not doing a very big piece, right? So we just need a little dab. That's why I chose JB Weld instead of panel weld. Because panel weld, sure, I could just squeeze it out of a tube, but you waste a whole entire tip. And we're only doing this little tiny thing, so there we go. Equal amounts of both. Now there's a little bit of, you can see there's a little bit of separation in the product. These two, I've had these two tubes for, you know, a couple hundred years probably. And now we got to mix it with something. Let's find something that's not too. Oh, how about a roofing nail? That'll work. Just mix it up till it's all uniform in color. And then we're going to take our little doohickey here. We're going to put some weld on it. Might need some help here. Get a good supply on it. Alright. Might even put a little on the emblem. And we're just going to sitting on here nice and straight. I think that looks good. Slightly cocked. Nope, I think that's perfect. Okay. Alright, and then we're just gonna let it dry and hope to God it stays there until until it dries. The wind has subsided a little bit, so we may actually be able to get this done, and yeah, it might actually hear me. It goes right, and it goes here. Now can I get at that from, barely, but we're gonna go ahead and stick her in there, see how she looks. It's fixed, you can see that, right? It's fixed. And man, my lens is dirty. There we go, so we stuff it in there. Which way does it go? Does it go that way? Goes that way, I guess. I don't know. So we're going to try to get this to go in there. It's kind of hard to get in there. I'm going to have to get some tools. Uh-oh, it's going to fall and break again. It's going to require a small extension. I'm going to have to put the socket on the nut before I even put it in there. Here we go. Get my hand in there. I don't know what the deal is. Oh, it's starting to tighten, I guess. Must be right in that dead spot where it doesn't want to tighten. So you know what you got to do then, right? You got to crush that nut a little bit. Well, anyway, there she is. I'm going to wrestle with it for a few more minutes, but that's basically it. It's still a little loose. I'm going to try to find a way to tighten it up. But that's it. Have you ever had one of those days where your desire to get something done and common sense don't go together well? This is one of those days. The reason I say that is I got pretty sick over the weekend, and here it is Monday morning, and I'm way under the weather. But I've been wanting to get this done. I want to get this Gremlin rust-free. So if you'll bear with me and deal with my coughing and froggy whatever, I'm going to go ahead and try to get this smoothed out and rust-free. I'm going to do this very old school. The right way to do this, what I would do now, if this wasn't a budget build, shall we say, I would cut, the metal out and then go ahead and weld in a piece. But that is what we call an evasive procedure. That's going to require burning a lot of paint. It's going to require a lot of, hammering and welding and cutting and a lot, okay? You may or may not agree with how I'm doing this, but I am not trying to make this into a show car. Just a nice old driver. And this paint's not that great anyway, and like I said, we're just going to try to preserve this paint. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to scuff up these areas. None of these go all the way through. Okay? None of it goes all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to scruff it up. Try to loosen any old putty that there might be in there. I think there's a loose piece right there. Yep. So we're going to take that off of there. Alright. It's just got some old Bondo in here because they didn't treat the metal correctly when they You don't want to leave any cracks in the Bondo, because that's gonna be hard to treat. So what we want to do is we're just going to scruff this up. And then I'm going to treat it. I've already sprayed it with phosphoric acid. And so the next step is going to be to treat it with some rusty metal primer. And then I've got to wait 24 hours for that to cure. Oops. I uncovered a couple of spots. So, with those spots, we're going to have to go over it with phosphoric acid again. So let me finish sanding it. I've already treated this, but I just uncovered a little spot here that's going to need some attention. So we'll spray it again with the acid. And what the acid does is it converts into a viable metal again, so that the rust doesn't come back. And the purpose of the rusty metal primer is to seal and to convert any of that rusty metal so that it doesn't ever rust again. I've had a lot of success with that product. Been doing it for years like that, and to this day I've not ever had any comebacks. So there we go. Not pretty, but pretty comes later. The product I'm using, it's called OSPHO. Phosphoric acid is basically what it is. The reason I like this product is because it's liquidy. When you spray it, it seeps in kind of like penetrating oil, and it gets in there, and it'll get into the nooks and crannies that you wouldn't normally be able to get with a gel type product. Make sure you wear glasses when you do this, because this is an acid. It will burn you. And I'll show you exactly what I mean, because let me show you this. Come over here and look where it's dripping. I don't know if I can find it. There it is. You can see it's bubbling up on the concrete because it is an acid. So it'll etch your metal for you. It will convert the rust into metal. You do have to wait for it to completely dry, or it won't convert. You gotta let it finish doing its thing, you know. So it'll turn kind of a whitish, it'll turn black, and you can watch some other videos where I did some rusty frames and stuff with it. It'll turn black, but it'll have like a white powdery substance over it as well. You wipe the white powdery substance off with just plain soap and water and let that dry, and once everything's completely dry, then we're going to treat it with some rusty metal primer made by Rust-Oleum. Some people have criticized my use of rusty metal primer, but I'll tell you, it has never failed me in 40 years of doing this. So how can you argue with those kind of results? It's been around a long time. I actually did a rat rod truck, and I coated it in this stuff, left the rust holes exposed, but put the rusty metal primer on it. And one, it kind of has a rusty look, so that's kind of cool. And it never came back. I owned that truck for, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years. And then I sold it in the same condition that I worked on it at. So if you want to say rusty metal primer ain't no good, go ahead. But for me, it works. And it's cheap. It's like, last time I bought a can, it lasts forever. I think I paid 35 or 40 bucks for a gallon. You can, you know, it may be more now. Everything's more now. Fortunately, I still have almost a gallon left. But anyway, enough of that. Let's keep going. All right, as you can see, everything has turned black, okay? And again, we're going to use filler because that's And I really should put a metal patch in there, but I'm going to do some very, very old school work on this. This is going back like 70s and 80s type body work for anything but the high-end shops. But because this doesn't go through and there's not a lot of chance of moisture getting behind it, we're going to use a different type of filler that won't be prone to like body filler like you use like Bondo. Bondo has a tendency to swell and bubble, as like we have in these spots. Stuff I'm going to use is not that way. But we have to treat the metal behind it. We have already converted it. You can see it's black. And now we are going to put some of this. You can't really tell because it's a really old can, but just Rust-Oleum. It's called Rusty Metal Primer. You've seen me use it before on other vehicles. So it's about the best thing. So once you treat this and convert it, then you coat it with this stuff. And I'm going to use a really technical, I'm going to use a brush. Just going to get, so I can make sure I get it inside there all over the place. And then we're going to have to do a little bit of sanding and a little bit of making things look nice. But for now, just because we've got, this is all dry now, I went ahead and wiped this down with acetone again to get it so it's nice and dry. And we're just going to go ahead and blob some of this Rusty Metal Primer into there. Highly technical, takes a lot of skill. Nope, I'm kidding. Doesn't take any skill. We're just going to make sure we get it in all the nooks and crannies. Don't be afraid to get a run because we're going to sand on it anyway. So use a lot so that it'll run into every area that you want it to. I'm not going to be nice and neat because we're going to have to paint this. Again, we're just going to rattle can this repair when we're done because this car is in pretty good shape all by itself. So we're just going to touch it up just like that. Hopefully my big fat head's not in the way. Again, I'm not being sparing, I'm just going to let it out. I don't care if it runs out on the road, well, on the grass in this case. The idea is to protect the metal, what metal is left. I'm only going to need one coat of this, so I want to make sure I get all the coverage I want in that one coat. There we go. And this is the worst of it. There's a couple of other spots that I'm not really showing you because I'm just put a little bit more in that one because I kind of want it to run down into the... There we go. And you can't see this when you're standing up next to the car in the first place. This you can a little bit, but we're going to sand that, fill it, make it look nicey nice. There we go. Now she is protected from getting any worse. And so all we have to do at this point is we need to get those holes filled up and or patched. In this case, we're going to fill them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, this is very, very old school technology. Not the best thing to do, but it is effective and it will last quite a long time. Now if we cut this out, we weld it in, or you could actually glue these panels in because they're not any weight bearing, but if you welded these in and or glued them in with an epoxy, then it would be better, okay? But then your body work consists of a whole lot more because you've either got to flange it, which you can't, or you will have to, you know, when you weld, you're going to destroy a lot more of the area around it. And because this car is in such nice shape, and because we're trying to keep the patina on the car, there's a lot of bubbles and runs, and you know, it's not a premium paint job by any means. I'll show you how to do this, and it's just going to be very old school but effective. We have now neutralized the rust, and we have essentially sealed it so it's not going to go any further. It won't travel, okay? There's not really any necessity to cut it out completely. Yes, if you want the car to last 400 years, well, yeah, okay, you need to do it that way. But the rest of the car will probably rust before this will. Like I've said before, probably many times, the procedures I use with the phosphoric acid to convert and then the rusty metal primer to encapsulate, if you will. And I'm not I've heard of POR 15. A lot of people, have you ever heard of POR 15? Well, yes, I have. I've never used it just because the system I have works, and it's a lot cheaper. And if it didn't work, I would go ahead and try something new. But there's no sense because this works and it's cheap. 36 bucks for a gallon, which will last me years because one coat is usually enough. And the Ospo, that's a little more expensive, but again, you're probably into several. I mean, you get a gallon of it, it lasts forever. And it creeps. It gets down. It's because, like I said before, it's very liquidy. It's like water. And it'll flow into the nooks and crannies and convert stuff you can't even see. So anyway, enough of all that. The next area we're going into is, I think I explained it yesterday. Pretty sure I did. If I was just to spread Bondo in that little hole that I have to fill in. That hole's a good 1/4 inch deep. You don't want a 1/4 inch of Bondo. You just don't. Because it will get wet in behind it somehow, some way. It'll start to absorb moisture. Even while we're working on it now, it'll start absorbing moisture. And if it absorbs moisture, it's going to start to swell, and the next thing you know, you see those little bubbles coming up under the paint. You don't like those little bubbles. In fact, it's got some of those. I've sanded them out yesterday. So what we're going to use is a fiberglass product. This is really very old school. Back in, I mean, if you've ever worked on a car that has been done in the 80s, 70s, late 70s, early 80s, you'll find a lot of fiberglass. That was the go-to back then. People would sand away the rust. They wouldn't even convert the rust. That's where they went wrong. I'm not sure when rust converters came along, but they would cut the metal out and then they'd replace it. They'd put a panel in and fiberglass everything in. And it would last forever because the fiberglass, in a sense, encapsulates the rust. So if there's no air and no dampness, no moisture getting to the rust, it won't rust any further. So with me, I take the one step further and get the rust converted into a hard metal. I forget what they said. It turns to something, but it's not rust. And then we'll go ahead and encapsulate it with the rusty metal primer. That works better than just encapsulating it with this. Now in this case, we're going to do all the above. We're going to go ahead, we did the Ospo, which is basically phosphoric acid. And we also did the rusty metal primer. So she's not going anywhere. I could leave it like that and it'd stay like that forever. Well, for a long time anyway. Put this on there, it's going to encapsulate the rust even further and keep the moisture out, unless the moisture comes in from the backside. But from what I could see, there was no way for any moisture to come in from the back. It's all been coming in from the front. Somebody had put some Bondo on there and a little bit of moisture got under the Bondo, and I think that's what went wrong. But there's still a pretty solid 1/4 underneath it. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to fill those holes with fiberglass, because fiberglass, they don't care how thick it is. You can, I mean, on a boat, what do you got? Probably a 1/2 inch thick of fiberglass there. If you buy a car that's made out of fiberglass, you're going to find areas that are 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch thick in the reinforcement areas. And a lot of times they'll put metal reinforcement in there. This is not an area on the car that is going to have any kind of pressure on it. It's just what's hanging down below. It's there for looks. So this is going to be just fine. And you can test me on this if you want. We'll check on this car 10 years from now, and we'll see if my fix didn't last that long. And if it didn't, I'll give you money back, which you didn't give me any, so I ain't got to worry about it. But I promise you, this is going to last a long, long time. Yep, I'm going to probably get people that are going to comment and say, that's a hack. And I'm not going to disagree. I was alive and building cars in the 80s. So I saw a lot of this. I watched guys, before I ever did body work, I watched guys do body work, and they would build a car out of fiber. In fact, my Corvettes are all fiberglass, right? But I've seen guys they build all sorts of crazy stuff out of this, whole cars. So if it's good enough for a whole car, it's definitely good enough, pardon me, for a small spot, right? That's my theory anyway. But going to be very, 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 very old school on this repair. If it's a car, I don't know how to put this. If you're building a 6-figure car, don't do this, okay? But if you're building a little rat rod or a hot rod, this is the way to go. It's cheap, it's fast, and and it lasts if you do it right. So, it's just going to depend on the repair. Would I do this on my Barracuda project? No, I wouldn't, because that car's going to be an expensive build. Would I do it on my AMX project? Nope, I probably wouldn't. Just simply because, well, one, I don't need to. The AMX doesn't have any rust. But would I do it on a Corvette? Well, yeah, I will. It just depends on the car. The Gremlin on its best day is a $10,000 car. And its best day. I mean, that's perfect, right? So, yep, you could do it right. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I don't want to paint this car, right? We're trying to preserve the paint that is on it. So if I keep the repair down to a minimum, I just got to spray it, and then we're going to do something to preserve the original paint and plus whatever I repair now. It's going to be a fast, easy, cheap, and fairly effective fix. All right, you ready? Hopefully I'll survive this. Feeling pretty rough. Let's go. Just follow the directions for mixing, and I've already prepped this surface. You just got to clean it up real good. And I'm just going to blob some of this in here, like so. Now, our biggest concern with this fiberglass is simply the holes. We're going to use regular putty for the rest of it, for the smoothing out and stuff. We're just going to use this to patch these holes. So, there we go. So it's going to look a little rough at first here. There we go. So don't worry too much about being neat, because we're just trying to fill the holes right now. And so once we get the holes filled, we'll use regular putty for the rest of it. I think we're good here. May not have mixed quite enough. And there's still a little bit right here. But that's pretty much what we're trying to do. And then we'll cheese grade this out, see if we need to put another coat. And that's pretty much wait until she firms up a little bit. Still a little tiny divot here, a little bit of a divot here, and just a tiny one here. So we're going to go ahead and put another coat, and this time you'll notice that it doesn't really stick to the paint, right? It's only sticking to the areas that I want it to, and that's good because we just want as minimal as we can get. So I'm going to go ahead and put another coat to fill in those low spots, and that should do it as far as the fiberglass goes. Put a skim coat of putty on there. This is just regular body filler. Let it dry. Just gonna cut some 80 grit sandpaper. Still a little sticky. We might have to wait a little bit longer. She's still too sticky. Oops. But this is just a little tiny skim coat of regular body filler, commonly known as Bondo. And that was just to smooth out any rough edges from the fiberglass. You'll notice I'm doing all this with my hand. You might say, well, why are you using your hand instead of a block? Well, I'll tell you why. Because this is round. And I'm not going to be able to match that with any kind of a block. So I'm just doing it with my hand just to get a, just to kind of keep it conformed. Again, this is not going to be a show car. We simply wanted to stop the rust and protect it from rusting any further, which we have succeeded in doing. We've got her sanded pretty good. And see, we've hardly scuffed the paint in other places, and that's why I decided to do it this way. And what I'm doing is using a good quality cleaner. I'm just going to use this rag, get some cleaner on it, wipe her down so the paint will stick. I'm going to put a little primer on it just to seal it off. There we go. Then you take a dry part of the rag and you wipe it off while it's still wet. And then we're ready to prime. Now we're going to hit her with a little primer, just as little as we can get away with. There we go. And then we're just gonna have to do some sanding with some 400 grit. See where we're at. I'll probably go to 220 first, and then we'll see how much we'll have to primer again until we get her nice and smooth, because you can see some sanding marks, obviously. So we'll do a little bit more sanding with a lighter grit sandpaper after this dries, and then we'll try to get her nicey nice, and then we're gonna hit it, and we'll be done. Got 150 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to go ahead and sand until the gray kind of disappears. And then we're going to do the same thing with 220. I don't know if you can hear all that racket. Listen to that. The mic is picking that up, but that is actually the wind trying to take my shop apart. It stormed last night. We had a bolt of lightning hit so close that it blew all the light bulbs out in the shop. And so anything that was on when the lightning hit, it blew it out. And so I had to do that this morning. Change a bunch of light bulbs. Fortunately, not the fluorescents. It was only the LEDs, strangely enough. But you see how we're getting rid of all the gray? That means I'm getting rid of all the scratch marks, because the gray is filling those in. So we'll go ahead and spray a little more gray after I'm done. And then we'll go to the finer grit and do the same thing. And then we'll go more gray. Several coats actually at that point. And then we'll do it with some 400. And then we'll top coat it. So, you'll notice there's some high spots where the gray is still sitting. And that's okay. I'm not too worried about those. This isn't going to be perfect because the car's not perfect. We're just trying to fill in those little gaps that the small amount of rust is causing. And I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate mail
about doing the old school fiberglass fill deal, but whew, listen to that wind. Again, there's a time and a place for every type of repair, and a patch panel, one, doesn't exist for this car, and two, this is just not the car to spend, you know, big money restoration on, you know what I mean? So that's way better than it was. It's not perfect, but it'll do when we finally put some top coat on it. It's down low, and if you look over the whole car, you'll find runs and little boogers here and there. So this will match just perfect. So let's put a little bit more of the gray on there, and then we'll go with the next level of sandpaper. I thought this would be worth mentioning. If you look at this tip, and the easiest way to explain it is it won't come off. It's not one of those removable type tips. I searched high and low for one of these tips. I actually found it at Ace Hardware. And this is Duplicolor, which is the good stuff. I believe the only people that carry this type nozzle is Napa, which I believe that's where I got these. And I noticed Ace had them too, because I just went to bought the yellow. I found they didn't have the yellow at Napa. I did find some yellow at Ace. Had the same type of nozzle, but I searched all over my area for this type of nozzle, because this nozzle, as you'll see, will spray just like a professional gun spray. It's got the fan spray, not the little round spray. It's got a fan. So I look for these because you can get a better finish with this. See how it's spraying a fan? Now you'll notice I'm getting scratch marks all up in here. And when we get ready to top coat this, put some yellow on it in other words, you'll see that that we're going to fan it out and kind of blend it in. Alright? Don't want to do that with this gray, because again, this gray is kind of a guide coat and it's a protector. I've got a couple of little spots here. I'm going to add some spot putty on those down in here. They're really low, so I'm not too terribly worried about them, but I'm a little bit of a, I'm not going to say perfectionist, but I don't like boogers. So I'm going to go ahead and touch up some of these little spots with some spot putty or glazing putty. And other than that, we're not going to spend a lot of time on getting this, you know, back to being yellow. Down to 220 sandpaper. I'm going to sand this one more time. And I'm going to prime it. And I'm going to hit it with 400. And then we're going to top coat it. Keeping my hand flat so I can feel any imperfections while I'm going, but actually, she's feeling pretty good. Got a couple way down low. I'm not going to worry about those unless somebody's crawling around under the car. They're never going to see them. Other than that, she's feeling pretty good. You'll notice I'm trying to go in a cross pattern, so I'll go this way for a little bit, and then I'll come this way. You know, so that way we're making like an X pattern. And again, on a touch-up like this, it's not as crucial, and I'm not going to go crazy on this one. I just want to get the scratch marks out of it. So there we go. Ooh, she feels nice and smooth. So that's pretty much it. See a little bit right there. Again, that's really low. Not too worried about it. There we go. Alright. We'll hit it one more time lightly with some primer, and then we're going to hit it with 400, and then it's time to put some yeller on it. There are lots of ways to do 400 grit. You can do 400 with 400 grit sandpaper with some water on it to keep clearing it. Or you can do a 3M pad. this will basically give it about a 400 grit scratch on it. So we're just going to do this. Still a little froggy. But we're just going to go over it with this. Same thing. Just try to get the scratches out. And it just makes it nice and smoother than a baby's bottom end. As long as it doesn't have diaper rash. If it has diaper rash, it's not so smooth, but you know what I mean. There we go. And now if I take my hand and I run it along here, you can't feel any kind of transition. So that's what we're looking for. Cleaned it up good with a good solvent so there's no fingerprints from the old mitts, you know. And then we're just going to touch it up. We're just going to kind of cover the dark with the yellow for right now. And we're going to slowly, we're just going to put like a little guide coat right now. It's funny because it looks a lot brighter right now. But we're just going to touch it, so I'm not trying to cover right now. And we're going to blend. She's really pale on this side, so that looks like drastic. But if you look at it in the front where I touched it up, it doesn't look quite so drastic because the car's got lots of different shades on it. So we're going to have to blend this pretty good, and we'll show you how to do that. It's getting tacky pretty quick. So I'm just going to go ahead and touch it up some more. This time we're just going to kind of blend it out a little bit. Keep it heavy where it needs to be heavy. But we're going to spray it out. You just kind of pull the can away as you're going. And that way it'll kind of start to blend with the metal around it. Now I did a walk around on this car, a couple other videos. So now we're going to go walk around now. So you tell me what you think of the job now. We'll get a whole good look at it. Ignore the yellow tire. Maybe I need to get it outside and get a better look. We'll kind of try to come back with the sun on it a little bit. There's some rust on this side. Now we're not quite done yet. This side came out a little bit better. And that's kind of it. I'm going to go ahead and pull her outside, and I'll try to get some halfway decent pictures of it too. I did forget to mention that we're not done yet because we have to wet sand the paint, because the paint is a little shinier because it's new. So we're going to have to dull it up a little bit. So we're going to wet sand it a little bit, and then we'll kind of buff the whole car together. And that way it all kind of blends together because the paint is a little shinier on the bottom. Of course, it's not clear coated, so we're not going to be able to, we're going to end up probably clearing the whole car. I know I blew my secret, but we'll end up clearing the whole car, and that will blend everything nicely because everything will be about the same gloss at that point. Right now, we got to kind of knock the gloss off the new stuff and wash the car because the car's filthy, and we'll go from there. That concludes it. Sorry about Froggy. Just get over that sickness. It's actually been like that when I first started this video. I think it was last Sunday, and it is now following Saturday. I tried to work when I was sick. Didn't work out so well, and I paid the price. So my wife threatened to take me to the doctor if I went outside and worked the next day. So I took the rest of the week off from working in the shop. Went to my regular job all but 2 days. But kind of kicked the thing, but still a little froggy. But hey, I appreciate y'all because
because I know there's a bunch of you out there that say, I hope you feel better. By the time you see this, I'm feeling better. Okay? So, but thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, this is quick fixes. There are some cars, and we're going to do one of those cars when I get to doing my Barracuda and my AMX car, because the AMX car is going to be black. So that one's got to be perfect. Alright, we're going to do those the right way. We're going to make sure we replace the metal we need to replace. We're going to do, you know, it's not going to be fixing bubbles. It's not going to be spot, you know, patching like we did on the Gremlin just now. Those cars are going to be top-notch, spend the money, spend the time restorations. So if you like that sort of thing, now they are not going to be concours restorations. They're still going to be backyard garage restorations, okay? What you can do in your garage. Maybe you can do better. You know, this is the best I can do in my garage. But the last two cars, the Corvette that we did to fix the bubbles, she came out great. But she's not a show quality car. Never will be. I didn't intend it to be. I wanted it to be a driver. She's every bit of that. Same with the Gremlin. Gremlin is a really good driver. Other than being a little shinier on the bottom, it matches pretty decent. It didn't look it when I first started spraying on that one side because it's real pale on that side. And once that paint all cures and I can get a little bit of some, you know, 1500 grit sandpaper in there, and then we'll kind of buff it up. And I don't want to put a lot of compound on that car because I do plan on putting some permanent shine, if you will, on there. And so that's going to require a spray coat of, you know, we're going to either use gloss, or we're going to use semi-gloss, or we can use matte finish. And the matte finish, if you really like, some of you guys, you like the whole, you know, dull paint look. Hey, you know, the faded paint like the Gremlin looked before I went and cleaned her up. She had real dull paint, and it's shining up pretty good. It's pale in spots, it's a little splotchy. That's just the way it faded. And I want to kind of keep that patina. But I didn't like the way the rust looked, so I just went ahead and fixed the rust. I'm not a, you know, when I had that rat rod truck, I did leave the rust showing, but I coated it with that rusty metal primer, which is a rusty color, but I did leave the holes and everything, but I thought that kind of looked cool. On the Gremlin, I didn't think it looked cool, so I went ahead and that's why we fixed on it today, or this week, I should say, because it actually took me a week. It really would have only taken you about a day and a half, 2 days to do that yourself, but because I was sick and I was only working a few hours at a time and I was fighting that, it took me like a week of time, but actual working on it, not so much. But anyway, I hope you liked it. I hope you liked the way the car came out. It is a little still shinier on the bottom than it is on the top. Can't help that until we can let it cure. Give it a couple of weeks, I guess, to let that paint cure. Even though it's spray can, it is acrylic enamel. And acrylic has hardener in it. So when it's acrylic, it hardens like an acrylic. I think they sold some kind of stuff to mop your floor with that was acrylic coating as well. Acrylic is hard, so you got to give it some time to cure. I've got her outside now, sitting in the sun, curing, and that'll speed things up. I probably won't touch it. I may never buff it. I don't know. Let's see. Because as it sits out in the sun, it's going to fade on its own, right? And rattle can stuff's not as good as the regular spray, so it should fade a little faster. And it'll blend. The more I wash it, the more I do things, it's going to blend better and better. I still haven't buffed the Corvette yet, so I'm probably not going to buff the Gremlin either. When you walk out there, you can't tell. You know, when you walk out in the sunshine, it just looks, you know, fine. You can't really tell. A little shinier on the bottom, but not so much so. Nonetheless, we're going to take some pictures and you can look at those. I talk too much. Dang. I had one guy say, you know, I talk too much. He was right. I did. So anyway, I hope you liked it. If you're not already a subscriber, why not? You got to subscribe. And I had somebody the other day, I was up looking at a car, and I'm hoping to buy that car still, but we've got money problems right now. We're going to get it figured out. But hopefully I'm going to buy this car. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I want to surprise you. But while I was there, the guy says, hey, I've watched your YouTube videos. I was like, woohoo, cool. He goes, why should I subscribe? Because I ask everybody to subscribe, right? So he says, why should I subscribe? What does it do? And so there may be a bunch of you. I never subscribed. Until I became a YouTuber, I never subscribed. I watched them all the time, but I never subscribed. And then one day I was watching this one guy, and he asked me to subscribe, and said it helps him out. And I was like, I really liked his video, so I wanted to support him. Now the guy's got like a million subscribers. I'm like, I was watching him when he had, 100. But anyway, and I never thought about being a YouTuber, and then this guy inspired me, and that's when I finally started doing it a few years back. Well, a little over a year back. Nonetheless, I'm rambling again. Yay, so what does subscribing do for you? Subscribing for you, it'll allow you to know every time I put out a video, it'll send you a little red dot on that bell thing up in the corner of the screen, you know. And it'll say, you know, you'll click on it and it'll tell you that new video, blah, 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 come out from E&E Speed and Classic Auto. So you'll know. You'll be late. You can jump on that thing. I've got a couple of guys. I mean, I don't have a video out for 5 minutes. Boom, they're on it. I love that. I love that. I wish there was more of you that did that. But they evidently really enjoy my videos, and I'm very, very happy to have subscribers like that and fans like that. And then some of them, they'll just kind of trickle in, and some videos take off, and some videos, toilet, right? That's just the nature of the beast. If I'm doing a car you like, you're going to want to watch it. If I'm doing a car you hate, probably not going to watch it, right? That's kind of, even my favorite YouTubers, sometimes they do videos, I'm like, I have no interest in that whatsoever. You know, if it's like a lawnmower, you know, I did a video on a lawnmower. You know, I'm not going to watch their video on lawnmowers. Yep, I know. I got my own, and it's actually fairly popular, but I'm just not into that. You know, now if I was wanting to fix mine and I was looking for a how-to video, I'd be all over it. Nonetheless, with all that being said, for you, all it does is it really just kind of tells you that I have a new video put out, and it tells you right away. So all your favorite videos will pop up and let you know right away. The other thing it does is some guys have memberships. I'm not big enough to do that yet. So when I have memberships, then yeah, you can do that, and you'll get some videos that other people won't. I don't know if I'll ever do that, because I want y'all to enjoy all of them. I don't want people to have to pay to get a little extra. Yeah, forget that. I'm probably just going to... I may change my mind. I feel like a sellout, though, so I do that, you know. But for you, that's all it really does. It lets you know next time. For me, however, it does great things. So if you like my videos and you want me to continue putting out videos, the more subscribers I have, the better my chances of getting the sponsors. The better the sponsors, the more time I have to make videos, the better equipment I can buy to do the videos, and maybe someday I can even pay somebody to hold the camera, because I'm the worst cameraman in the entire world. In fact, you know, anytime I'm holding that camera, I get complaints every time. But so that's what it does. So for you, yep, let you know when I get a new one. For me, it helps me to gain sponsors someday. Can't get any right now because I just don't have enough subscribers. But as I build up, then it does allow me to get sponsors, and the sponsors help me with the money. The money allows me to do bigger and better, faster projects. And sooner or later, if all goes well, I will be able to retire from my other job, and I can do YouTube full time. And that's ultimately my goal. And if you like my videos, I can't hurt you all either, because I can start putting out 3, 4, 5 videos a week instead of putting out, or one really good long one, you know, because I can stay on the project all week long instead of having to stop on the weekend and then wait till the next week and then wait till Tuesday night, which is when I usually process them, because that's when the wife is busy doing something. I don't have to lose out on family time. So, you know, I have a schedule when I get to do YouTube. And so by you subscribing, that helps me to eventually start to be able to do more videos and that sort of thing. And then liking, I think, I could be wrong, and any of you that do YouTube, if you know more than I do, I think hitting the like button just kind of strokes my ego. I think that's all it's for. It's like, oh, woo, somebody likes it, yeah! You know, it makes me feel good. It's a warm, fuzzy feeling for me, I guess. I don't think it does anything for you. I don't know. It might. But hitting the like button, I don't think does anything but, like, just, you know, give me an attaboy. Hitting the dislike button, I don't know. It's got a different flavor, you know? If somebody hits dislike, I'm like, why be mean? Why be a jerk? You know, if I don't like somebody's video, I just don't watch it, right? And I started out with my video saying that a lot, and I may go back to that. It's like, and if you don't like my video, don't watch it, right? That makes sense. So why would you sit and watch an entire video and then hit dislike at the end? Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. So you're not going to see me putting a dislike on somebody's video, because I'm just not that kind of guy. If I like it, I'm going to let you know. I want you, hey, bam, like. I might even throw something in the comments and say, hey, man, that was awesome the way you did that. And there's a few guys that do fabrication stuff. I love watching those because they teach me stuff. And so I'll throw in a comment every once in a while. Of course, not a lot of them got 9 million subscribers, and they'll never actually see mine, but I throw it in there anyway. With me right now, I'm still small enough where I try to answer if it's a question. If it has a response, you know, that is appropriate, I will try to answer everybody that puts in a comment. So don't hold me to that, because someday I might have 1 million subscribers. If I do, yeah, then I can't do that. But because I've just got too many. But I'm going to try. As long as I am able, I am going to try to make some sort of a response to everybody's comments. If you throw me a mean one, I'm not probably going to be real nice back, right? And a lot of times my fans and or subscribers will not be nice back to you as well. So be prepared for that if you throw in a mean one. But I guess that's your prerogative. Dislikes, do what you got to do. If it makes you feel good to be not nice to people, go for it. But I do enjoy the likes, and I very much appreciate the subscribes. I am going to stop talking now because I'm tired of hearing me talk. But at least you know now, because I did have somebody ask me that, so I just want to make sure I addressed that whole subscriber thing, like why do it. It's more for me, but it does help you a little bit. Love y'all. Have a good one.